Welcome everyone to Happy Life Habits Inspiration Point podcast. This is series 4, episode 6, our final episode of this series and our final episode for the year. And I was going through the year compass that we're going to be using for the looking forward, looking forward session on the 19th of December, and just started to fill that out. And as I was filling it out, looking at everything that's happened since January, that's when I realized this is our 18th episode this year, 24th episode overall, because we started Inspiration Point last year with 6 episodes then, but we've had 18 this year, and from January to April, every week for 12 weeks we were having an episode, and then again we started in the autumn. So really excited and pleased that we've been able to share this 1 full hour of positivity and energy and optimism and hope there. And today we've got a really a special guest, a good friend of mine, Vicky Johnson, who will be sharing in this last session. Normally we run for about an hour, but this one we might run a little bit longer for some experiences in Q&A and so forth. But as usual, what I like to do is ask you the question on a scale of 0 to 10, not using the number 7, but you're allowed fractions and decimals. Just take a checkpoint right now to see where you are on that scale. And if you want to drop it in the chat, put it in the chat. And if you want to press the space bar, press the space bar and share. And myself, I'm 8.9 at the moment. And as a reminder to everyone, your scale is unique to you. Everyone's number is unique to them. Your scale is unique. And the purpose of this exercise is not to compare with others. It's just for us to be aware of where we are ourselves. And if we choose to change that number, then the tools and strategies that we share in Happy Life Habits, you can use to shift that number upwards. So that's what it's about. And we can use this tool of checking in now and then on a regular basis just to see where we are, how we're doing, and then change it if we wish to. So just as a reminder, as usual, the ground rules are the session's being recorded, and we ask you to keep your mobile phones on silent for the duration. If you can stay on mute, that would be great. When we're doing the video process, if you can keep your videos off, and at the Q&A point, you can switch your videos on. You can ask questions directly via the chat, or ask directly. So all of that is welcome. All of you see on here are familiar. I'm Shani Shah, so happiness coach, speaker, and trainer, and through Happy Life Habits, positively impacting happiness and well-being levels. And our project, Inspiration Point, is about, as we said, an hour of focus on inspiration, positivity, and happiness. And it's inspiring, positive, extraordinary people sharing their journey and challenges and turning points, their daily habits and learning through personal development, happiness, and spirituality. And what we find is, we might be facing something similar and we can be inspired by their journey, or we might be experiencing something different, but still be inspired by their journey and find the resources we need to cope with whatever challenges we are facing, and yet also know that there are opportunities there. So that's the purpose of these sessions. And we have a set of 9 questions that we go through with each and every guest on our show. And what we tend to find is those 9 questions, as we ask them, there are some commonalities and similarities with what people share, but there's also individuality and uniqueness there. And we find things that resonate with us through all of this. So the kind of questions we ask is, what makes you happy? What are you currently doing that inspires you? What's been your journey, and what's been one of your favorite quotes, and so forth. I'm really pleased to and grateful to thank Balance Consultancy for sponsoring the whole series of this series of 6 episodes, but also the 2 previous episodes this year. So all 18 episodes this year, Balance Consultancy have sponsored. So we're really grateful for them for creating this opportunity for us. And so, as we said, this project is Inspiration Point. Our current series 4 is finishing today, and we have our guest, Vicky Johnson. And there is a reminder there of the other guests we've had since September with us. And as I said, you will see commonality and a uniqueness in the answers as they are shared. So an introduction to Vicky. So Vicky I've known for just over 4 years now, and she is the co-founder of the Museum of Happiness, and she's the director of the Museum of Happiness. And the Museum of Happiness is where I did one set of my Science of Happiness training 4 years ago. So I was with one of the first batch, was within the first batch of training that the museum offered, and been a volunteer with them and helping serving in the early years with projects and sharing in that manner. And Vicky's been constantly for those 4 years and a bit longer, serving the community with the efforts of that Museum of Happiness shared, and we'll hear more about that. Vicky was a mentor in NCS The Challenge. So NCS is the National Citizen Service, which is there to help 16 to 18-year-olds have some life experiences, learn about serving, as well as becoming a good citizen. And it's normally a 4-week program, and she was a mentor, guiding young people during those 4 weeks and helping them with that. And this was, a very demanding role. From my experience of helping on NCS a little bit, it could be 18 to 25 young people you're looking after, and we know what teenagers can be like. So looking after 18 to 20 plus can be very challenging. But that was, a skill set and actually developed to do that mentoring. As I mentioned, very much the pillar of the Museum of Happiness. Prior to that, NCS, as I mentioned, and during that journey, she's experienced burnout, like many of us do, where the demand's been more than what we can cope with, and we've not necessarily been able to put our energies into the self-care that as well as we could, or as well as we want to look after ourselves. But she's learned through those experiences and developed a set of routines and habits which really support her and help her thrive and help her share her experiences as well as these tools and techniques with others. So she's dedicated her life to sharing the art and science of happiness, and she does this with reflective and playful ways. She's been awarded a World Peace Award by the Prime Minister of Nepal for her meaningful contributions. She's had various experiences in the Himalayas, which we'll hear about, including a visit with the Dalai Lama, a 10-day meditation retreat, and much more. And currently she is running, as I said, the Museum of Happiness, and they've got a happiness club and happiness training ongoing on a regular basis. And she's just finished at 7:30 today, half an hour ago, a set of training and joining us. So we've got to give her all the energy we can to be with us for the next hour and a bit in that manner. But before I say and warmly welcome, actually, I warmly welcome Vicky. So happy for you to join us. And Vicky, do you remember when we first met?
Was it something at Service Space?
Indeed it was. So it was September 2017. It was Service Space, and there was an awakening meditation circle locally here in Mill Hill. It was one which I was attending, and I had started attending these meditation circles from the prior year. And I had signed up in August for the happiness training that the Museum of Happiness was offering, and I was waiting to hear, what had happened with my application. And then I heard that the team members of the Museum of Happiness were coming to the meditation circle, and they were just busy setting up the launch of their space in Camden, and were about to open in the next few days, and they had come in. And that's when I met you, and you were just like, full of energy. I, shared, look, I've applied for this training. I haven't heard anything. And you said, don't worry, come along. It's fine. It's okay. We'll, look into it. And you said, we've got our opening in a few days. Come along, join it. We're sold out. Come along. We'll squeeze you in. And this is the approach I've seen with all the stuff you do. You're so warm and welcoming, and to meditation circles at Museum of Happiness and all events, you're just very welcoming to everyone, very calm, very relaxed. And when I've worked with you to deliver stuff, you know, you've said, however you feel appropriate, run with it. And it's been a pleasure working with you, Naman. So that is our journey and experience, and the memory I have of that.
Thank you, Shailene. Well, it's been such a joy to get to know you and do different things together to spread happiness. And it's such a joy and honor to be here on this beautiful podcast and to see the journey that you've all been on over this period. It's amazing. It's amazing. So it's such a pleasure for me to be here.
Fantastic. So, Vicky, our first question that we like to ask everyone is, what makes you happy?
Oh, so many things. I think being out in nature really makes me happy. I have, there's a willow tree in the local park, and it's kind of just by nature has got like a little embedded groove in it. So I go and sit in the groove in the tree and just kind of sit there. And if I've had a really busy day, or if I've noticed my stress levels rise or whatever's going on, just going and being by that tree in the park, I naturally feel my nervous system just relax and kind of happiness start to kind of seep back in. So that's kind of one of the little things that makes me happy. And I think seeing people progress, you know, whether that is, you know, the work with youth work in NCS, just being on that journey and watching people kind of overcome little challenges and obstacles, or just be that little bit kinder to themselves or connect with somebody. I think I love humans, and I just love seeing people just make these little steps of progress. It really, yeah, that's something that really lights me up and kind of fills me with joy.
And absolutely. And what I've kind of, I think, come to understand or learn regarding that is some of those things are intangible. We can't measure those.
Yeah.
We can't measure that impact. Whereas, you know, with a lot of other business and a lot of work, it's, you know, it's measured by the bottom line, or it's measured by number of products sold, or this, that, and the other. But some of this, you know, we can't measure, yeah, it can be quite difficult to try and fathom or measure these things. But that experience of helping others and seeing them progress and grow definitely is a beautiful experience. So, in relation to that, what are you currently doing that inspires you?
Yeah, so we have a happiness facilitator training. So that's what Shailene went on. It was the first ever cohort those years ago. So we teach other people the tools of the science of happiness, the art of happiness, and then they go on and spread it in their local community. So that's something that just brings me so much joy and really inspires me, because people are just awesome. Like, there's always so much wisdom in the group, and people have their own stories, and their way that they use the tools afterwards is like bigger and better and more creative, more fun than we could even imagine. So that's always really fun, just seeing where people take it. So we kind of plant a seed of inspiration and share some tools, and people go on and do these wonderful things like what Shailene's doing. And I think the other thing that's really cool is a couple of things we're working on at the moment that really excite me. So we're developing our Flourishing Schools program. So I'm a youth worker at heart, and I feel like, imagine if we'd learned these tools, the science and art of happiness at school, you know, how to make friends with your mind, how to move yourself from a place of feeling quite unhappy to just kind of doing some little practical things to just raise your happiness levels a bit. So we're working on a Flourishing Schools program now, where we train the teachers in their kind of inset day. The teachers then sprinkle into the classroom and teach their children, and then the children teach their parents. So the school turn their school into a museum of happiness, so a gratitude room, a meditation room, and they give their teachers kind of like a tour. So that's something that we're really excited about. We're really trying to get funding to do that, because schools don't have any money, and so we want to kind of make it as kind of least barriers to entry as possible. And then the other thing that we've just finished doing is working with parents. So going to schools after school, just working with the parents. And that's been so beautiful. Just to see, like I said, you know, when you see people are making little bits of progress, and just being a little bit happier, or just giving themselves permission to take care of their own needs first a little bit more. And So yeah, they're the kind of things that we're working on that most excite me at the moment.
Yeah, no, the schools one sounds awesome, because you're right. If we are able to nurture them with these skills and with these tools and with this mindset in an early age, they have them for life.
Oh, I know.
And the impact that, and we know, the vibration effect or the ripple effect that this can cause of creating a much better future for everyone.
Yeah, and they really get it. Children's minds, they're like sponges, they absorb it and they really get it. They're such little yogis already. So we do, meditation, gratitude, self-compassion, and we have the earth flag, and we put it on the floor, and they all write on a heart-shaped post-it kind of happiness pledge or a takeaway or their commitment of kind of to cultivate more happiness and peace in themselves so they can create more happiness and peace in the world. And I gave 2 different post-it notes, and one of the kids, this little boy Teddy, went, hang on a minute though, isn't it the same thing? If I'm creating more happiness and peace in myself, that does create more happiness and peace in the world. So really it can just all go on one post-it note. And I was like, yes, you're very wise. It is the same. And the other thing I'm really excited about, we're doing a Happy World Club. So every week next year, there'll be something, and amazing guest speakers, and just this sense of how do we cultivate a happier kind of world from inside out. And I think that's what it's all about. And so want to do, help children with this, because they're the next generation, right?
Yes, and that Happy Club you started beginning of this year and has been running through this whole of this year, and just last session was this Monday gone, wasn't it?
We've actually got 2 more sessions, and we break up just before Christmas, and then Happy World Club starts again next year on Blue Monday, which is
17th of January.
Supposed most depressing day of the year.
Yes, and I saw on the program you've got was it one of the speakers I remember from learning way back, Jonathan Gray, Men of Mars, Women from Venus. That's a brilliant.
Yeah, he's like the leading expert in the whole world on relationships. Yep. So I kind of got to the point where our limiting beliefs really hold us back in life, and our inner critic is like, oh, you couldn't possibly ask that person, they're way too famous. And then I just thought, actually, just ask people. The worst thing that can happen is they say, no, sorry, I haven't got capacity, or people just don't reply. And the best thing that can happen is people go, yeah, sure, it's an hour of my life, and then things are more accessible now because we're kind of a lot more online. So yeah, we've got Satish Kumar, Marissa Peer, John Gray, loads of awesome people.
Fantastic. And yeah, it's that all reminder of that old adage, you don't ask, you don't get. So no, and you're right about the limited beliefs. We often already reject it before we've even asked. We reject it ourselves. Awesome. No, that's great. Okay. Yep. No, that's. Was there anything else on what you're currently doing that that inspires you want to share? It doesn't need to be the museum related. It can be personal stuff as well. That other projects or other things you might be doing.
Personal things. I'm mentoring a girl, and she's just so inspiring. And I think, I try to at least mentor one person per year, and that's been something that's really exciting. And then I have 2 mentors, and I'm working on a project of more working with women and doing retreats and things with her as well. So that feels exciting. That's something that I think will be born more next year. But awesome. I just feel so grateful for the mentorship that I've had over the years, that there's something where I feel called to kind of pay it forward and give back in whatever kind of little ways I can.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So would you like to, and this is, the big question of what's been your journey, what some of the challenges and major turning points which have got you to being where you are here now as a director of the Museum of Happiness and sharing each and every day, happiness out in the world, but what's been that journey up to there and some of the challenges?
And it's not over yet, is it? So I guess I've always been really interested in happiness and unhappiness and mental health. So both of my parents suffer with severe mental health challenges, and so I've grown up with just those early seeds of like, what is happiness, and why do some people have more and some people have less, and what are the factors, and what is happiness? How do we get more of it? How can we best take care of ourselves? And I think that was really tough. It's everybody probably knows a loved one that really suffers with their mental health. Depression is the #1 cause of disability in the whole world, according to the World Health Organization. So it just, my whole life, I've just been holding these questions of what can we do more to best take care of ourselves, of our mind, to look after our happiness and to cultivate more happiness so that we don't get stuck in such a place of suffering. And as we know, happiness has a ripple effect, and kind of unhappiness has a ripple effect too. So after university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went traveling. We just hit the recession, so there was no jobs. So I went traveling and I started volunteering at an orphanage in Cambodia. And what I found was these were the most happy children I had ever met in my life. And that really challenged a few things, because I was like, well, they've gone through severe trauma, they've lost their parents, yet they're so grateful, they're so joyful. And how is it that kind of when we look at young people in the UK, there's a lot of unhappiness, and it kind of started the deep reflection there. And what I realized was, these children had a sense of community. They would pray, they would meditate, they would do yoga, they were outdoors in nature a lot. And they were very grateful. Instead of looking at what they don't have, they were very, very grateful of what they do have. And as we know, the science of happiness will back up all of these things, as these are the things that, cultivate sustainable happiness. So when I got back from traveling, I was away a couple of years, I came back and I was like, okay, I want to work with young people. So I started working with young people with mental health challenges, different young people that were going through different difficulties, and we're on this kind of program where you teach life skills is ultimately the aim, the stuff they don't teach you at school. And again, I was really, really, really struck with the poor levels of mental health. I was mentoring a couple of people that were suicidal, and it was really tough. And I realized I was very under-resourced to be able to hold it. So I wasn't sleeping well at night. I would really struggle leaving on a Friday, switching my work phone off, knowing that I am mentoring 2 people that are suicidal. And you just meant turn your phone off, go enjoy your weekend, then come back on Monday and not know if they've made it through the weekend. It was so tough. And I found myself in a place of, probably like emotional, physical burnout. I got to the point where I would just burst into tears. I had no energy. I was feeling anxious all the time, really, really stressed. So I actually got a few sessions with a life coach, and everything was based in positive psychology, what she was teaching me. And all of a sudden, like, the external factors were exactly the same. Like, none of the stress had been taken away. I could just hold it a little bit more effectively. I had some tools and techniques to make friends with my mind, take care of difficult emotions when they show up, to try and practice letting things be and letting things go. And I felt happier. I didn't feel this huge weight of the world and this burden on my shoulders. And I was able to do my job more effectively. Because, like we say, we can't pour from an empty cup. It's like, how can I support you when I'm really, really struggling? And so I thought there's something in this. So I went on to train as a life coach. I did an NLP practitioner course and coaching. And then I was like, oh my God, like, we're not taught how to make friends with our mind. We have this amazing thing, and it ends up being either our worst enemy or something that can really help us, but it's not being taught and shared widely. So I thought that was one of the kind of turning points of like, we can teach happiness. Happiness is a skill that can be learned. There's tools, techniques. Everybody needs these, right?
Yeah.
Life is hard. Being human is hard. So I trained as a mindfulness teacher, which is where I met the other co-founder of the Museum of Happiness, Shamash, and we went on a retreat that he was running. So I got to know much more about mindfulness and mindful self-compassion. And that was a real turning point for me. I realized that I was really holding on to a lot of things from the past that just weren't helpful anymore. And it was really holding me back and getting very hooked and fused to lots of difficult thoughts and things very regularly. And it helped me start to kind of let go of the more difficult things. And the self-compassion side of things was huge. I realized I was very good at giving to other people and being very kind and caring, but I was being really hard on myself. And then, yeah, me and Shamash were like, there's loads of paths to happiness. There's mindfulness, there's making friends with the mind, there's the self-compassion, nature. And we were like, wouldn't it be great if there was more of a place or a space where you explore the science and art of happiness? And it doesn't have to be this really heavy thing, because if we'd said, Museum of Mental Health, maybe it wouldn't quite have the same lightness, and people would there'd be some barriers to maybe some people wanting to join. But if you say happiness, everybody wants to learn how to be more happy. So we did a pop-up Museum of Happiness, not knowing if it was just this weird, crazy idea that would kind of fall flat on its face. And it went viral on Facebook, got seen by 1 million people, and we had 10,000 people sign up. So with that, our stress levels went up quite a bit too. We'd never organised an event for more than 50 people. So we did a little bit of an SOS and had so many volunteers just be like, hey, we'll help. We had 50 volunteers. The whole thing was ran on kindness and just people's time. And yeah, we had people of all walks of life come. And so we were like, okay, there's a thirst for this. People do want to learn more about the science and art of happiness. And then we got a little space in the Canvas Cafe on Brick Lane, Happiness Cafe. But there was more people that wanted to come than we could fit in this little space. So we ended up doing an outreach program. So going to people, basically. We ended up in a homeless hostel in Camden, and we were working with people that had gone through severe trauma, had drug and alcohol addiction, which they were self-medicating because of the trauma, because there wasn't really anything else available, which is so common. And we had a really good day with them, and they offered us a space there. They were like, whatever you did, please move in, do more of it. And they were just really surprised that fights hadn't broken out. They didn't tell us this. They were just like, this is really unusual that no fights have broke out. Whatever you have done, come and do it more.
Yes.
So we did a crowdfunder, and we were in that space for about a year, and it was amazing. There was a real sense of like the darkness and the light. So there was hundreds of people there that, they were living on the streets, really battling with trauma, drug and alcohol addiction. And there was a Museum of Happiness, like this inner sanctuary, and gratitude trees and arts and crafts and ball pools. And it was beautiful because the two worlds merged together. And the biggest gift of that year was it became just a beautiful community. It wasn't like the homeless residents and the community, it was just the community. And I think the homeless residents got to be around people that helped lift them up, and the other community members, I think it really helped them drop the negative associations with homeless people. There was a lot of fear, judgment. And then I think what happened is people were like, everybody is human, just some humans get dealt some really difficult cards. And if I was in that person's shoes, and if that had happened to me, I probably too would have turned to drugs and alcohol. And there was a real sense of coming together and breaking down barriers, which was beautiful.
Perspective shifts.
Yeah. Say that again, sorry.
Perspective shifts.
Yeah, perspective shifts, absolutely. And that's what the world needs. You need to spend time with people that are different to you, right? To get to learn a bit more about people that are different to you. Otherwise, we can end up being surrounded by people that are exactly like us. And then we live in this echo chamber of people that it's like everybody agrees with what I say, everyone has the same interests, and we can become a bit disconnected and segregated, ultimately live our lives in our little separate bubbles. And we were only able to stay there for a year because basically rent in London is very expensive, and we had that for kind of a year to trial it. And we were in a position, like a lot of well-being initiatives, where you want to be really accessible as much as you can, but also with that there's a sense if you have a permanent space, you've just got really heavy overheads. So we've got mobile now, and it's going really well. So the benefits of that is we can just pop up wherever we want. There's a lot of stuff online now, so we have people dialing in from all over the world, and that's kind of the journey that I'm on, kind of on a little bit of more like the Museum of Happiness. And me personally, it has been such a journey of inner transformation for me. Of, I think what I thought happiness was when I started that is different to what I think it was now. I was very much the hedonistic side of happiness person. I would do whatever I can to throw myself into joy and move away from pain. And I was in such a place of just giving so much that I had nothing left to give to myself. And I think through the running a startup and the Museum of Happiness and that space and the kind of probably empathy fatigue that you can get from being around people that have been really traumatized. Yeah, I too went through another burnout. So kind of the first one was at the challenge NCS, and I learned different tools and techniques to help, and it was my path into kind of mindfulness and self-compassion. And then this time the shift was, you can't give from an empty cup. Whatever energy you're giving out, you have to almost give double the amount to yourself, so you can serve from an abundant place, right, instead of from a place of depletion. And I had to take some time out when we decided not to continue with the center. It was quite hard. It was a really difficult decision, but my stress levels were so high in trying to make this center work, and the overheads, that it was like, this isn't making you happy. So actually there's an irony there. You can't run a Museum of Happiness really stressed and unhappy. And so I took some time out and I went to a place called Auroville in India. And it's this incredible place. Google it after this. It's, I think, one of the only places in the world where there's a temple where it's not to do with religion. You go and worship the kind of divinity that's within you. And there's different kind of flower petal quadrants that you can go in and you meditate to try and cultivate different virtues. So whether that's kind of courage or gratitude or peacefulness. And I was in there every day for as long as they would have me until they kicked me out.
Auroville was founded by Aurobindo, correct?
Yeah, Sri Aurobindo and a lady that they've called the Mother.
Yes.
Yeah, two really amazing people that just had a vision for human unity, and this sense of everybody has a sense of, whether you say the Buddha seed or whatever it is in them, and they made it not about religion. So they were like, come and develop your own consciousness, purify your mind. And it's a really interesting place. So it used to be desert, and there was a thing like, no one can live here, it's completely like unlivable. And thousands of volunteers over the years made it like a rainforest, and they built this temple, and it's a really interesting place, and there's a very healing energy there. So we didn't even really have to do too much. It was just that kind of be in nature, go to the temple, try and just turn your phone off, don't go on your emails, and just really replenish. Kind of like, we have to nourish ourselves, don't we, to be able to give to anybody. So within that kind of place of rebuilding my energy and strength back, I realized I had to really ask myself some big questions, really, of like, do I want to continue doing this? How do I want to show up in the world? And am I living my values the way that I want to? And is this my path, or is it not? And I decided it was. I just needed to look after myself much more effectively, and had to learn to say no and put some boundaries in place, and just ultimately live my life a bit differently from a place of, I have to do this from a place of inner transformation. And whatever I am teaching and sharing with others, I have to be doing like double, triple the amount myself. And that has been a journey. And I feel like now I do that. And I think I kept my time, and I have quite strict, not too strict, but quite like, these are my morning practices. I meditate in between meetings. I get myself out in nature, and I'm not saying I've mastered it and every day is like that and I've cracked it. I think, even the Dalai Lama will say he's still a student. And I think I've really had to put my own needs first and work through the guilt of doing that to be able to show up and serve from more of an abundant place.
Yeah, no, very much so. And I know when we've caught up a couple of times this year for just catch-ups and chats, you've shared how you have a Monday where it's complete switch off on electronics.
Yeah.
for the bulk of the day until you're serving, in the evening. So that for many of us would be really quite challenging, difficult to now that we're so obsessed with our gadgets and phones. But that's, no social media, no phone, no interaction over electronic gadgets, and just time spent reflecting and meditating and silence and nature. Correct?
I think we really need it. And even
Mm.
if we only do it for half an hour a week, I think our mind really benefits, because so overstimulating when there's constantly things coming in and we get so overwhelmed. Well, I know I do.
Mm.
That just to be able to have that protected time, and I felt really guilty at first, and my mind would be like, oh my god, what if someone needs to contact you or your family or work, and then eventually you work through the discomfort and you're like, the world is not going to end if I am not online for an hour. And I kept just building it up. And so I tried to do one day a week where I turned my phone off and I just practice the practices, right? So doing the meditation or being in nature, or almost even just working with the discomfort of being like, I'm going to go offline and I'm going to keep doing it, even though it makes me feel really uncomfortable, kind of that feel the fear and do it anyway type thing.
Yes. No, I think that's brilliant. And as I, with the chats we've had this year, I can see that, you've built these habits and these practices and routines into your lifestyle, disciplines, and, and the benefits of those, is showing as well. I've seen that growth happen over the period of knowing you. And I know also, for the last few years, that self-compassion is one of your key things. The posts you put out on Facebook and stuff, that's very much highlighting that. And you've also have shared some of the ups and downs you've had on your Facebook posts of, this is what's going on, this is what I'm feeling, but these are the things I'm using to help me, and sharing those. So
I think
yeah.
it's really important to keep it real, in terms of that's been a real journey of me being able to practice vulnerability and kind of give myself permission to share more of like, this is what's going on in my life. These are the good things, but these are the things that are really challenging, that I'm really, really struggling with. And I think people really appreciate it. People have been like, oh, thank God, we just thought you were happy all the time. And I'm not. Like, difficult thoughts show up regularly, difficult emotions show up regularly. I've got many family members that are still really battling with their mental health. And there's a sense of, I guess, the trauma that can occur when you have been born into a family where everyone has severe mental health challenges as well. So there's a sense of difficulties are a part of life. Life can be hard. It's part of being human. And I think that was a big shift for me, actually, of being able to just share more about the difficulties in my own life. I felt a huge weight lifted of like, I realized no one expects you to just turn up and be really happy all the time. And I was putting so much pressure on myself to be happy all the time, and it was exhausting. And I think I realized, you might not be able to show up with the joy side of happiness every moment of every day. It's not real life, it's not human. But can you show up with love? And I was like, yeah, you know what, I can. And I think with our values, if we kind of figure out what our values are, and I think there's little ways we can practice our values every day. And I think when we're like, oh, these are my goals, it can be really hard because goals can feel a bit out of reach, and especially on the tough days. But I think, one of my values is, I want to try and be the love that I want to see in the world. And sometimes I feel really rubbish and I'm really working through something really difficult emotionally. And it's like, I can't necessarily show up with the joy, but can I show up with a gentleness and a tenderness of love and self-compassion and a love for the work that we do, which I'll always have, whether I feel sad or angry or joyful.
Yes, wonderful. That's brilliant. So can you tell us a bit more about your time in India? So it's well, that as well as the experiences with Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama. There was the other one that you had shared, which Jetsuma Palma. I haven't come across, but yeah, if you want to share those experiences and what you learned from those experiences.
Oh, I just think, it has been such a joy and honor to get to be in the company of these, these amazing people that have done so much inner cultivation of peace and joy and making friends with their mind, that you can just feel it. It's almost catching when you're around them. You can feel the peace, you can feel the love, you can feel the compassion. So yeah, I'm trying to think where would I end up first. So in that kind of burnout phase of we're kind of letting go of the center, which was really hard, Shamash took me to Plum Village in France, and that is a monastery there, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's initiative. And it was so healing. You're around the energy of the monks and the nuns, and it's just so peaceful and joyful. You feel their energy is so contagious and catching. And I did a lot of deep reflection there again, and it was just really, really healing. And whenever I felt in a place of feeling a bit lost or feeling like, you know what, I need a break to be able to just kind of reassess how I'm living my life and if this is working for me, I often go to India. And I went, was it about 2.5 years ago? I went and did Vipassana. So it was a 10-day silent meditation retreat in the Himalayas. And I was, at the time, my decision to go was I was really, really struggling with my mind. I was getting really hooked into things from the past and ruminating, and I was getting pulled into quite a difficult place. And I have experienced depression a few times over my life, and I felt like I was getting pulled a little bit more into that tricky place. And so I was like, right, we need to go deeper into making friends with the mind. And I've had lots of friends through the service-based community that have done these 10-day silent retreats. And all my friends that know me really well, my family were like, you can't do that. You can't not talk for 10 days. Like, you'll never be able to do it. And I was like, thanks guys, but we're going to give it a go. It was amazing. The day one, my mind went wild and was like, this feels like prison. Why have you done this? This is awful. I want to leave. And then he did that again for kind of day 2 as well, to be honest. And then day 3, there was a sense of, no, you've chosen to be here and you're very lucky to be here. And day 4, there was my mind went over everything that ever wanted to be angry and sad about, over and over and over it. You've got no other stimulation, you can't talk to anyone, you haven't got a journal, you've got no other distractions, you're just left with yourself and your own mind. But they teach you to be the curious observer of whatever's going on. It's just a thought. You have 60,000-70,000 thoughts a day. So just sitting there, observing the thoughts, coming back to the breath. And then about day 5, after my mind had gone over everything it's ever been angry or sad about, it then went to the future of everything that we could ever possibly worry about. And you get to know the mind and the tricky nature of the mind and the rabbit holes that it goes down. And it was just amazing. I kind of really got to know the tricks of the mind. I really got to know the really old rabbit holes that it went down, the old outdated stuff that it's running these programs and stories over decades. This is not helpful. And I think I accessed a level of peace there that still lives within me now. There was a lot of chaos inside of me, in my mind, in my body. And it did feel like a purification process. I feel like at our core, we are joy and peace. You only have to think of a little newborn baby to kind of connect to that. But then this interference happens, doesn't it? We grow older, different things happen to us. The mind develops that kind of more complex ruminating, forward planning thing. And we cause ourselves a lot of suffering with our mind. And that's exactly what I was doing. And I think there's a real sense of common humanity in that. We all do it. But no, it was amazing. And I ended up staying at Jetsuma Palmo's nunnery and volunteering at an animal rescue centre. And these are all things that just bring me so much joy. And I think, in the pandemic year, I wasn't able to. So my fight or flight response, if I'm struggling, I'm very flighty. I will often just book a flight and go somewhere. And obviously you couldn't do that. So I had to sit with it, and that's how Silent Monday was born. I was like, right, you can't go on a plane and go in a nunnery. You have to build an inner sanctuary inside of yourself, which is much more sustainable anyway, if you can do that without having to hop on a plane. And I feel like now I'm in a place where I've built an inner sanctuary, that inner nunnery, or whatever you want to call it, where I can reach for these things to soothe my system, to make friends with my mind, to tend to difficult emotions.
Fantastic. No, that's great. It actually sounds, it sounds like a lot of inner work has been done, and you've unraveled a lot and are able to get to that inner peace place with the practices and the understanding now. And a lot of Eastern philosophies are along what you said of that joy and bliss and gratitude and all those being innate within us. But our journey is to remove the layers to be able to get to our true selves. So fully understand that, and the whole mind process is a big player in getting those layers removed and to those levels of consciousness, so and energies. So wow, fantastic. I think it would be nice to move on to some of your daily habits and routines that support you. You've shared a little bit of some of those, like the Silent Mondays, but what are some of the other things that you do on a regular basis that look after and support you?
So as soon as I wake up in the morning, my alarm goes off. I don't go on WhatsApp or my emails or anything. I go on an app called Insight Timer. So it's a free meditation app. It's brilliant. Really recommend it. And I'll just set the timer for 10 minutes. If I've got longer, I'll do longer, but it's usually about 10 minutes. And I just sit up in bed, and for 10 minutes, it just rings like a meditation bell. For 10 minutes, I just sit up, watch my breath and watch the thoughts. And that's how I start my day. And then I've got a gratitude journal that I bought off Shailene. It's amazing, where I just write down what I'm grateful for, my intention for the day. Well, 3 things I'm grateful for. And an intention for the day. And then I pray. I give gratitude to something higher, and ask for what I need that day. I usually say, like, please connect me with something higher, give me strength, let me be a vessel to be of service, and whatever it is I feel I need to just kind of connect and ask. And then in between meetings, I'll meditate, and in meetings I usually say to whoever I'm meeting with, would you like to start with a moment of mindfulness? So just ring the bell so we can meditate with one another. And then when I go to bed in an evening, I will often think about what I'm grateful for, and see if my partner wants to do it as well. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, and practice non-judgment on the times where he's like, I don't want to do it. I think that's my kind of daily practice. And then self-compassion throughout the day. So I ask myself every day, what do I need to best take care of myself today? Really, really important question. That was from Dr. Kristen Nesswork. So she's one of the pioneers of self-compassion. Because we're giving to so many other people. When do we think, well, what do I need today? And then the other thing is, like, what's the kindest thing I could do for myself today? So there's an element of just taking care of ourselves, being kind to ourselves. And then there's a saying that I say to myself through most of the day, which is, I'm doing the best I can right now, and that's all I can do, and that is good enough. So that's helped when you've made mistakes, when things are going wrong, when you feel overwhelmed. So I would say, my core practices are about kind of mindfulness, gratitude, self-compassion, and noticing when I have fallen into a place of fear and trying to reconnect with love again. And you can do that through prayer, you can do that through self-compassion, getting yourself out in nature, or, you know, many ways that we can reconnect back with love again.
That's fantastic. And it's a real rich collection of practices you've got there, or tools, or however you want to call it, that you can call upon. And what's really lovely is you've made these daily disciplines, you made them part of your lifestyle in that way. And I do love the one about meditating in between meetings, and you know, the stuff I'm learning about and hearing about. It's that aspect of, you know, you go up and you come down, you go up and you come down, and you need that pause and that reset before you can engage back in with life or with whatever you're working with. So really important to have that moment of time to just reset and disengage for a moment. So yeah, I mean, being really inspired to pull that more back into my daily stuff from what you've been sharing. So fantastic.
Made a difference. My
Yeah,
fear was,
sorry.
what if people don't want to do it? I haven't ever been with anyone that said no, thank you. So I've been in quite corporate settings before, or different meetings, and I just usually say like, oh, one of our cultures at the Museum of Happiness is just land softly and kind of leave behind whatever we were doing before and whatever we might have to do afterwards. Would you care to join us, like a moment of meditation? And people always say, gosh, no, I feel so much better after doing that. And then I imagine it will have a positive ripple effect. It might inspire them to want to do it with their busy days and in their meetings too. And, you know, that inner critic might go, you can't possibly say this to the chief exec of wherever. And actually, people have said, yeah, and you feel their energy change. People come with these very serious stressful energy. You can feel it even through Zoom. And then you see the humanness and the dissolve, and often ego drops as well, which makes it much easier to deal with people.
That's fantastic. And that also reminds me, Tim Ferriss of the 4-hour work week, as well as Tools of the Titan. So in Tools of the Titan, he's interviewed all these people who've been high achievers, successful, whether they're chess prodigies or business people, a whole variety of people he's interviewed, and some well known, some less well known, but interviewed a whole bunch. And in his what he shares is the number one thing that majority of them say that they do is meditation. So that's been one of the core meditation or mindfulness or some sort of side effect. It's been one of the things that has been a running theme through the majority of people he's spoken to who've been in this successful mode. So a lot of benefit there. Yeah.
You're less likely to make a mistake if you meditate. You're much more likely to think about the words that are going to come out of your mouth before you say them to somebody else, and so it enhances your relationships. And I think we just have more time to just reflect and make better decisions sometimes, don't we, when we're not just running on automatic pilot mode.
Yeah, we get into the mode of responding instead of reacting. And also, with the meditation, it's taking that control away from the amygdala part of the brain, which is the fear, fight, and those kind of things, and putting the control to the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking logic. So which it's able to think, is this a threat, or do I need, what is the choice of response? So that's what the practice does. Fantastic. So what's one of your favorite quotes?
Oh, there's so many. I think no mud, no lotus is something from Thich Nhat Hanh, and I've got a lotus here to remind me of that, of a sense of, beautiful lotuses can only grow from mud. And I think there's been times in my life where I've literally felt like up to here with mud, or like drowning in the mud. But then there has been some kind of life altering or shift that has occurred, or a big learning of some kind. And so that's been a real soothe and comfort to me of, more challenges will come in life. It's part of being human. And just remembering that actually there often are some unexpected gifts or some lessons or some learnings that come when you feel like you're really up to here. So yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. And then the Dalai Lama says, happiness doesn't come ready-made, it comes from your own actions. And that's something that I've really, I mean, the science will back it up, my own personal experiences will back it up. And, you know, I'm sure it's kind of what Shailene teaches as well, in a sense of like, if I don't do those practices, I don't feel very happy. And so it's like, I have to take it into my own hands, and I have to consciously do them and make dedicated action and time towards these things that make me happy. And if I don't do them, I won't feel very happy.
Yeah, no, wonderful. And yeah, the no mud, no lotus is very, I think, four short words, or very apt for us to, you know, reflect on. One of the things I remember hearing about in terms of like with the lotus, and I think maybe with this no mud, no lotus is, you know, the lotus, the beautiful lotus leaves themselves don't actually touch the mud. I think there's like a layer of oil or something like that, which it means they themselves, you know, aren't touching the mud. So I think the inclination being that, you know, obviously, you know, the mud is representing, you know, the tough and the challenges, but there is a distinction from that where the beauty is.
Love that. I love that. And I think it's always, there's as you were talking about that, the image of the kintsugi came up, of the Japanese pots. When they're broken, they would fill them with gold, and it kind of makes them even more beautiful. And there's a sense of, we're already whole and perfectly imperfect, and sometimes we might feel cracked, we might feel broken. Sometimes the lotuses, it might look like they're, you know, in swampy water, but there's still so much beauty. And so, yeah, no, I love that. It's learn something new every day. Love a lotus fact.
Research it just in case I got it wrong, but this is what I do recall hearing.
Because they're not ever covered in mud, even though they're submerged in mud. They're at ease in the mud.
Yes, great. What's an achievement that you're proud of?
An achievement I'm proud of. Oh, an achievement that I am proud of. It's so funny, isn't it, when it's like these things come up, the Britishness it does, of like, I could think of like, I'm like, what did I say on my form now? I can't think of anything. Something I'm proud of. I'm really proud that my mental health is in a much better place now than it has ever been. And that has been from really doing the work, really leaning in, really investing time and energy and money into things as well. And I'm really starting to find that place of inner balance and inner peace now. And I'm really happy and grateful, and I feel proud. I think there's been a few times in my life where I've been like, you can't possibly take time out of work to go and do this. Or I went on retreat last week with Emma Slade. So she's a Buddhist nun. She was like a badass businesswoman, and she got held hostage, and now she's a nun in Bhutan. And there's different things in life where I've been like, oh no, you can't possibly take time out, you can't possibly do that. And then you think, you're not ever gonna regret investing in your own time, your own health and well-being, so do it. And I think I'm at the point now where my mum's actually really ill in hospital. She's been in hospital for 19 days now. And I've actually noticed the difference of how I'm handling it to how I've handled things like this in the past. There's more of a, I haven't become so shaken by it. And I think there's a beautiful quote that says, when the roots are deep, there's no need to fear the wind so much. I think it's African proverb, and I think that's actually something I feel proud of. And it's because I keep these strict practices and keep investing in happiness and well-being.
No, absolutely. And I think there's a couple of, I think, key things there. One is, you know, you're investing into it, and it's not just investment of time and money, but it's also, you know, often, you know, we go on to courses or we go to workshops, we hear something, we think, yep, great, we're motivated, but then we don't do the practice, we don't do the learning. And what you've been doing, you know, over a lot of years, I've known you, is putting the things that you're learning into practice and make, you know, and growing and knowing those things in that manner. And that's, I think, one key distinction there. So it's go to the things, but also use the things and see what works for you. So that's one part. The other thing that you shared just now, let me think what was, could you just remind what was what you had just shared?
Was it the retreat? Being okay with mental health?
No, retreat's important. Yeah, taking time out and doing the retreats, investing in yourselves and applying and learning the stuff and making it, and realizing that some of these things, it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take time for it to work through. So those are there. But also, yeah, that's it. What a lot of people don't realize is they are looking for the fix after, in the way, like the horse is bolted out the stable door and then they're trying to close the door. And with the happy life habits and with what Muse My Happiness is sharing and what many others are, is learn these practices now, use these practices now, so that you're building yourself up to be better, have a deeper world, stronger roots, so that when the challenge does come, you're able to respond and deal with it better. And I find that from my own experience with what I've shared about positive grief and the death of my father, that those practices and things that I was doing last year have helped me deal with that better compared to otherwise. So not having had those and how to then deal with the grief would have been a different story. So
absolutely. And I think I had an analogy once. I'll see if I can explain it properly. But a sense of, it's almost like these little things we're doing. It's like droplets into a bucket, tiny drops, keep consistently, tiny drops of water. So when a fire comes, we've got some resource, and it might feel like meditating for 5 minutes a day isn't doing anything. If in those 5 minutes, I might notice that I've got so many difficult thoughts, so much busyness. It's not necessarily an enjoyable experience. So there might be a sense of like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But I know that it's helping me, as Shailene said, create that space so I can respond with more patience, kindness, compassion, so I'm not as reactive. So I think, it's these little things that make all the difference. And on different days, you'll feel different. There's some days where Silent Mondays are really hard and I'm like, I've stopped doing this. Or there's times where, I don't really want to meditate. I'm like, no, come on. Even if you can just do 1 minute. And sometimes it is just that. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do 1 minute. And that's still going to be contributing to giving a little bit back to my mind and my body that's working really hard.
Yep, absolutely. Do the small steps and do whatever you can. Like I said, even if it's a minute, but keep that consistency there. Fantastic. No, I think what you shared in terms of what you're proud of, it's been really good and wonderful there, and the growth that has come through from that. What's one of your favorite books and why?
I really, really love the book The Universe Has Got Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. She is a real teacher of how do we move from a place of fear to love in a really, really practical way. She also addresses like how judgment separates us from love and how to return to love. And this sense of keeping it really real as well. She talks a lot about her own mental health struggles and her different things with trauma and how she's overcome it and how she's used how the lotuses from the mud have come and she's used it to help her teaching. So she's been quite an inspiration to me. And I love that book. I read it when I was in Oroville, when I went to India, and it was exactly what I needed to hear at the time. That thing where you're like, everything's falling apart. And then you're like, no, it's not. The universe has got your back. Like, it's not sending things to make you miserable and sad. That's not our purpose in life. This is, helping me strengthen certain virtues. And there's some lessons in this. And even when you're kind of, I was going to say knee deep in the mud, but even when you're literally drowning in the mud, it's like, what can I learn from this? What can I take from this? And there's lots of really practical practices, prayers, meditation, emotional freedom technique, breathing exercises. So I love that book.
Fantastic. And did you manage to get into 40 Rules of Love?
I haven't. Do you know what? I've got it somewhere in the house. When we moved, I bought it and we've moved house and I've unpacked everything and I can't find that book. So I'm in that thing where I'm like, I don't want to buy it again because I know it's in the house, but I might
Yeah.
just buy it because then it'll probably show up. It's like one of those things, isn't it? And then I'll have 2 copies. I can gift one. So no, I love Rumi. Rumi's got some beautiful quotes and
Yes.
yeah, I'm sure it'd be a really beautiful book.
Good. Now I look forward to our chat after you have delved into it.
Yeah, just gonna do
Brilliant.
it.
So what did you learn from your parents? Is our next question.
So much. I think, my mum is, she really struggles with her, her health, and she's so strong and she's so kind. Like even when she's really, really struggling, she's still thinking about other people and being thoughtful and being kind. And I think from my dad, so my dad went through a lot of trauma with his family and upbringing, and then he then ended up being traumatized and turned to alcohol as alcoholic, as a way of self-medicating. And I think I just knew I didn't want to do that. I was like, there's times where I felt really struggling, and it's so easy to reach for things to kind of numb suffering, and there's nothing wrong, with a little bit of a glass of wine here and there, but I think I know that I have alcoholism in the family, so I have to be careful. So I think he has inspired me to reach for the positive things that are going to help me actually heal trauma and actually really take care of myself. And my mum's strength and kindness, she inspires me so much. She's so tiny, she's smaller than me. I'm 5 foot, she's 4'9". And she's, life has dealt her some really, really hard cards in life, and she is literally doing the best she can. And so I have a lot of respect for her and her strength and her kindness and her courage.
Wonderful. That's brilliant. And the final main question we have is, who or what are your inspirers?
Oh, so many. I love the Dalai Lama so much. I think he is just such a being of love and compassion, and I've had the joy of seeing him speak in his temple in Dharamshala, and he's always just been one of my teachers that I've really inspired by his teachings and his humor and his playfulness as well, right? Humility. Satish Kumar, I adore him. He's speaking at Happy World Club, and I'm like, so excited. Sister Lucy, amazing lady. She trained with Mother Teresa, and then really realized the constraints of being a Catholic nun. And after a tragedy happened, and she's gone on to open all these centers in India called Mayher, which means mother's love. And I spent some time with her, and she just is such a being of love. And she will say, what would love do? When you're faced with adversity or in a really difficult situation, asking yourself, what would love do? And I've really held on to that. So she's an amazing inspiration to me in my life. And I would say they're kind of 3 that kind of come to mind now. And I've got 2 incredible mentors. One of my mentors, Yvonne Fuchs, she's been such an inspiration to me. And I have another amazing mentor called Andrea Hencott. They're both speaking at Happy World Club actually next year, of just their determination, courage, and how they show up with so much love, even though, the various suffering and things that they have dealt with. I think I learn a lot from them.
Fantastic. No, that's lovely. Are there any questions we haven't asked you that you'd like to answer, or anything you'd like to say that we haven't shared or covered before we open up any questions from the audience?
I think we've covered everything. I think a final thought that I always feel that is good for us all to remind ourselves is to just be that little bit kinder and gentler with ourselves. I think we're naturally quite hard on ourselves as humans, and I think coming back to that sense of, how would I treat a really good friend or a loved one if they were going through a difficulty, or if they make a mistake? we would have a bit of a patience and a kindness and a supportive nature. So just seeing if we can at least just try and give a little bit more of that to ourselves, or if life is tough already, let's see if we can be mindful that we don't attack ourselves because it's hard already. Would be something that, yeah, just encouraging everybody a little bit to just be that little bit kinder and gentler with ourselves as best we can.
Wonderful. No, thank you for that. Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. I think, you know, a lot of insights and gems have been shared in this session. So I'm going to share just a couple other things that have come to mind as we've been chatting. So one was that at the start of the pandemic, I put together an article called Together in Isolation, and reached out to a few people to share. And Vicky recorded a meditation. So that meditation she shared with us, and in the article Together in Isolation, that's on the website. The meditation is there. So, and there's a lot of good material there of what she shared just now, shared by her as well as others, of routines and practices like being in nature and meditation and gratitude and a whole other bunch of other self-care practices that you can use, which have been captured in that article. So it's one which I look on now and then and just get reminded, oh yeah, there's this, there's that. So that's that was one. The other thing was that, again, just emphasizing your nature of, you know, serving everyone, but also being really friendly and being open. So I remember, you know, when we did the training, you know, one of the things that I shared, I was going to do I've been doing a couple of gratitude workshops prior to coming on the training, but obviously with stuff I learned from the science of on the science of happiness, I was able to incorporate that into some of those workshops, and had one which I was running a month or two after we did training 4 years. But then during that training, you know, one of the things I shared was that, you know, I want to be sharing this stuff out further. And then that January, the museum was having a winter festival. And I remember you remembered me saying that I wanted to share something. And you said, look, we've got the winter festival, giving you the opportunity. If you want to share about gratitude, here's the opportunity. So I remember that, and, you know, very thankful for that, as well as, you know, other winter festivals and opportunities. So, and again, as I shared, it was one of those ones where it's like, here's, you know, a platform for you to share. And it wasn't like, okay, you've got to say this, or you've got to do this, or any of that. It was just like a lot of trust and a lot of flexibility there. And I've seen you being very welcoming to anyone who's come, you know, to the Muse for Happiness sessions. So that is a very strong quality. So keep that. Well, it's, I think, innate in you. So that's lovely to see. So now we have the opportunity for anyone, if you want to ask any questions on what's been shared so far, or anything else, you know, related. Feel free to ask. You can drop it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can come off mute and switch your video on. We've got a couple of minutes where you can share any questions you have, or if there's anything in particular you'd like to know, or a particular practice that Vicky shared that you'd like to know more about, or possibly your experience. We have a couple of minutes where we've got that opportunity to share. So if you'd like to, please do raise your hand. I am just getting, there's nothing coming through as yet on the chat or please scans. I'll give them a couple of minutes to think through on that, and we'll see if something comes up. But I'm going to share a couple of more slides and things. So if you want to find out more about the Museum of Happiness, or contact Vicky, as well as you can find out about the Happiness Club that's going to be running, and some of the other activities and events, it's museumofhappiness.org. So look that up, and there's a Facebook page as well. You can click on and follow, and sign up for the newsletter, where, you know, weekly newsletter comes out sharing information on what's going on. So that's all available there. So yeah, if there are any questions, please do let us know. While we're still waiting for that, I'll just quickly share a few other slides and bits and pieces. So again, I thank Balance Consultancy for sponsoring the whole series. One of the things that Vicky shared that she uses is the happiness journal. So it's the 5-minute journal. It's the one we use in Happy Life Habits as part of the 30-day gratitude workshop. And if you, 30-day gratitude and journal habit training. If you want to just get the journal, that's you can do that. If you want to get the journal and have a 90-minute workshop on teaching you how best to get the most out of that journal, which incorporates some of the learnings from the books mentioned on this slide about habits, you can do that. And that will be on the 9th of January. And if you want to do the full 30-day course, that will start on the 1st of January, with this workshop being the first workshop. So that's all possibilities there to help build those habits, help get those in place before challenges or opportunities come, so you can respond to those. And as we said, the journal is based on 5 positive psychology-based activities, 3 in the morning, 2 at the end of the day, and for more than 5 years now, it's been part of my daily practice, and for many others it has, and given lots of benefits. So those are all available. And yeah, get in touch if you're interested, and you can lock in pricing for 2021 before prices go up for the course, either in January or thereafter later in the year, for dates to be confirmed. The other thing that we've got happening is our last event of the year. It's looking back, looking forward. So it's one where we, go through the year. We use this booklet called the Year Compass. So everyone who's on the database would have had an email come through on Sunday. You can click on that, download the workbook, work through it in your own time, and it's got some wonderful questions and reflections there. I've been using it for the last 3 years and find it really beneficial. And a couple of friends who came to the workshop last year said it was really useful for them for doing some of the things they've been doing this year. So you can get the workbook, use it, and if you want to come to the workshop and share, then you're welcome to do that and sign up for that. So that's possible. And one other activity we've got is the mastermind group. So we started this in July. We're coming to our last session in the next week, next week. And it's about connection, it's about learning on a consistent basis. It's brainstorming solutions to problems that any of us might be facing. And it's that, once a month consistent aspect there. So we will be running this in the new year. And the 3 topics which people have filled out the form to say they're interested in are energy, purpose, and learning. So those will be most likely the ones that we will be picking to work through on. So if it's something you'd like the sound of and want to take part in, you're more than welcome to. Again, you can share your happiness score, and I will just check if there are any questions while I look into that. So there was a question on what was the link that we used in the morning. So it's an app called Insight Timer.
Yeah, Insight Timer. It's so brilliant. I'll show you what it looks like. Can you see? It's just like a little meditation bowl here, Insight Timer. So you have the joy of you just set a timer and someone just, well, not someone, the app rings a bell. And do you know what? That was how I got a meditation practice. So I did a mindfulness teacher training course, and I did the 10-day silent retreat in the Himalayas. And it was the app that got me into the meditating every single day. And I think there's a beauty in just making it really simple, and habit stacking. I'm sure Shailene shared about that, but it's like as soon as my alarm goes off, I go on Insight Timer, and then it's like, okay, we're going to meditate. And it's got thousands of the best meditations on in the world, the best teachers, and just it's free. It makes it really easy.
Yeah, I've used it a while back, and the range of stuff on there is amazing. And it's themed as well. You can have meditations for sleep, you can have meditations for stress, whole variety of things, and yeah, a whole range of different people who've shared on there.
And the other cool thing that you can do is it's really time adapting. So if I'm like, I have literally got 2 minutes, there's things on for 2 minutes. If you're like, oh, I've got 10 minutes, you're like, great, 10 minutes. So you can just think, okay, what do I need to best take care of myself right now? So if it's like, okay, I need to bring my stress levels down, or I need some energy and some motivation, or there's music on there, there's all sorts. It's really great.
Fantastic. There's a couple of lovely comments shared. Thank you for sharing your journey, very inspiring. And then Debbie's shared, could listen to you all the time, love your joyful voice. Thank you.
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, Vicky is one I enjoy chatting with and catching up with on as and when we can. And whether it's a half an hour or 1 hour, it's just an awesome period of time that we have on that. And she shares from the heart everything she does. Yeah, so 0 to 10, if you're happy to share, would love to hear your scores. And if you aren't already and want to be connected in any manner, then the links are there, and Linktree/Happy Life Habits can give you access to all of those as well. So I will come back and check here. Okay. We've got some numbers coming through, and they seem a little bit higher than what we started with, which is good. So we're in a good place in that manner. And yeah, I tipped over the 9 and into a good 9.3, 9.4, probably an even 9.5. I think it's been really enjoyable. Thank you. Good. Okay. That's great. Thank you all for sharing. So as I mentioned, this was the last Inspiration Point podcast episode for this series for this year, and for the time being. We've had 18 this year and 24 in total. All the recordings will be on the website. I think the last two, this one and the one before, are going to need to go up, and they'll be available for you to partake and listen to as and when you need to and want to. So there we go. And Vicky, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing. And thank you so much also for the extra Zoom time based on the longer time today, but also after having had a good intensive training session earlier. Really appreciate you doing this, and thank you. So thank you all. Take care, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shailene, for the invitation.